I never thought I'd be telling this story, certainly not as a parent, and never as someone who believed they knew their child better than anyone else in the world. But the truth has a way of creeping in through the cracks, especially the ones we pretend don't exist. My son, Adam, had always been mature for his age. He wasn't just book smart, he had an emotional intelligence that set him apart from other boys. He listened when people spoke. He looked them in the eye. He carried the kind of confidence that wasn't loud, but steady. After finishing his university exams early, he came home for the summer, a welcome surprise for all of us. We live in a quiet neighborhood, the kind where everyone knows each other but minds their own business. Our next-door neighbors, Claire and Thomas, had been close friends of ours for over a decade. Claire was the kind of woman who always had the right words at the right time, warm, elegant, someone you trusted without needing to know why. Thomas was quieter, always working late, but kind in his own way. I had shared countless cups of tea with Claire over the years. She had held my hand when my mother died. She remembered Adam's birthdays better than I did some years. It started with something small, innocuous, even. I was cleaning the living room one evening while Adam was out, and his phone buzzed on the coffee table. I don't make a habit of invading my child's privacy, but the message preview stopped me cold. Same time tomorrow? I can't stop thinking about last night.
C.
I stared at the screen. Heartbeat thick in my throat.
Claire?
No, it had to be someone else. I tapped the message. The name was saved as just C, but the number, I knew it. I'd used it to call her myself countless times. For a moment, I just stood there, as if by doing nothing, I could undo everything. But curiosity and dread make poor roommates, and soon I found myself scrolling. The texts were intimate, secretive, laced with guilt and desire in equal measure. There was no ambiguity. The air shifted. The house, once familiar and safe, felt foreign. Like a stage I'd been standing on without knowing I was the only one who didn't have the script. I put the phone down as if it had burned me. My hands were shaking. My mind raced, grasping for alternative explanations. Anything but the obvious truth. But denial has a short shelf life. That night, I looked out our window, and through the trees, I saw her back porch light flicker on. A figure emerged. Adam followed. They didn't speak, just stood close. Too close. And in that moment, everything fell into place, with sickening clarity. My son was having an affair. And the woman he was having it with was old enough to be his mother. My friend.
Claire. I didn't sleep that night.
I sat in the kitchen long after midnight, the house cloaked in silence, except for the occasional creak of settling walls. My hands trembled around a cup of untouched tea. I kept replaying what I had seen, what I had read, as if the right sequence might yield a different conclusion. By morning, I had convinced myself that I needed to confront Adam, not just as a parent, but as someone who still believed there was a line between mistake and betrayal. I wasn't sure which side of that line he stood on yet, but I needed to hear it from him. He came down late, hair tousled, eyes bright like any other morning, as if everything wasn't about to fall apart. "Sit down," I said, my voice too even, too calm. He paused, studying me. "Is everything okay?" I didn't answer. I slid his phone across the table. "I read your messages with Claire." His smile vanished.
He didn't ask how.
He didn't deny it. For a moment, he looked like a child again, caught, cornered, scared. But that moment passed. "I didn't mean for it to happen," he said softly. I blinked. "Adam, she's married. She's our neighbor. She's my friend." "I know," he whispered. "I know how it sounds." "How it sounds?" My voice cracked. "Do you understand what you've done?" His gaze dropped to the floor. "It wasn't planned. We talked a lot when I got back. About everything, about life. About feeling stuck. She understood me in a way no one else did. One night, it just happened." "You let it happen," I snapped. "You made a choice." "She made one too," he said a little too fast. I went still. "You're blaming her?" He looked up, eyes rimmed red. "I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just trying to explain. I didn't think it would go this far. She's more than twice your age, Adam." Silence pressed in between us. I watched him sink further into himself, shoulders curled inward, like he wanted to disappear. She said she wasn't happy, he said. With her marriage. With anything. I didn't go looking for it, but I didn't stop it either. The shame in his voice was real, but it didn't ease the knot in my chest. I raised you better than this, I said, quieter now. I taught you to respect boundaries. People. Families. I know, he whispered. I stood, unable to sit a moment longer. You need to end it.
Now.
Before this destroys more than it already has. He nodded, slowly, then left the table without another word. The door closed behind him with a finality that made me wince. And I was alone again in the same room, but in a world that no longer made sense. The days that followed were quiet, but not peaceful. The kind of quiet that pulses under your skin, a silence that doesn't soothe, only reminds you of what's broken. Adam didn't speak much. He stayed in his room, barely ate, and avoided eye contact like it might burn him. I didn't push him.
I didn't know how.
Across the fence, Claire's house looked unchanged. Curtains drawn. Porch light flickering at dusk like always. But the familiarity now felt hollow, like walking through a house after the furniture's been taken out. I hadn't spoken to her since the discovery. I didn't plan to. The betrayal sat too deep in my chest, coiled and heavy. But I noticed things. Thomas coming home earlier than usual. Their arguments, muffled but sharp, bleeding through the summer night air. One evening, I watched Claire leave the house with a suitcase. She didn't look back. The neighborhood didn't know.
Not yet.
But secrets don't stay buried in places like this. Whispers are currency. And I could already feel the looks too long, too knowing from people who didn't say what they were thinking. I told no one. Not even my sister, who called weekly and always asked how Adam was doing. I lied. Said he was just tired from exams. That he needed time. The truth was, I didn't know how to explain what had happened without feeling like I had failed. Not just as a parent, but as a person who trusted blindly. Who welcomed someone into my home, into my life, and never saw it coming. One evening, I found Adam sitting in the backyard, knees pulled to his chest like he used to do as a boy when he was scared. I sat next to him. For a while, we just listened to the wind in the trees. I ended it, he said quietly. I told her it was over. I nodded, but didn't speak. She said she loved me, he added. That she meant it. I turned to him, searching for words that could hold both truth and compassion. Sometimes people say that when they're trying to escape their own loneliness, that doesn't make it love. And it doesn't make it right. His eyes brimmed with tears, but they didn't fall. I don't know who I am anymore. You're still my son, I said, even though part of me wasn't sure what that meant right now. And you're going to have to live with this. But you can still choose what kind of man you want to be from here. He nodded, eyes downcast. Inside, I was unraveling in slow motion, heart heavy, pride wounded, trust shattered. But outside, I kept still. Because sometimes being a parent means holding yourself together long enough to give your child something to hold on to. Even when they've broken your heart. It's been almost a year now. Sometimes I still find myself reaching for the phone to text Claire about a recipe or a neighborhood meeting before I remember who she became to me. What she chose. What my son chose. The memory settles over me like dust, quiet, but stubborn. It doesn't go away. You just learn to live around it. Adam moved out 2 months after everything unfolded. It wasn't punishment. It was necessary distance. He found a job in a different city, started therapy on his own. He checks in now more often than he used to. He's calmer. Softer even. A little older in the eyes than a man his age should be. Sometimes I hear the apology in his silence more than in his words. And maybe that's enough for now. As for Claire, she left town shortly after her marriage fell apart. I never spoke to her again. We didn't scream at each other. There was no dramatic scene. Just absence. And in a way, that was worse. She didn't fight for our friendship, for the truth, for accountability. She vanished, leaving behind memories that now feel sour, like fruit left too long in the sun. I never told anyone the full story. Not my husband. Not our relatives. I carry it alone, Not because I'm ashamed of what happened, but because some wounds don't need witnesses. They just need time. I used to ask myself if I could have done something different. Raised Adam better. Set stricter rules. Been more present. But parenting isn't a formula. It's hope in action. And sometimes, even the best hopes fall short of human failure. What I've learned is this. Love doesn't mean pretending people didn't hurt you. It doesn't mean excusing their mistakes. It means looking at them in full, their flaws, their regrets, their wrong choices, and choosing not to let that be the end of the story. Adam betrayed my trust. But he also came back from it. He faced consequences. He didn't run from the damage. That, in its own quiet way, takes courage. And me? I learned that forgiveness doesn't always come with peace. Sometimes it sits beside pain, not in place of it. And that's okay. I still miss the version of my son I thought I knew. But I also see the man he's trying to become now, one who understands the gravity of harm, who walks more carefully through the world. And I'm proud of that. Some boundaries, once crossed, leave permanent marks. But they also force us to choose. Do we let the damage define us? Or do we grow around it? My son crossed a boundary I never imagined. So did I, when I chose to love him through it.